taken years of. Oh, do you? You put the coconut
Moisturizer.
Guys, we are totally holding down the fort here. I'm starting to feel like.
Any ski patrollers here?
Yeah, they're in there. They're just
going to the grub stick.
Yeah. I'm planning on it. I
heard that both sides are contributing $500
for alcohol.
Live from the cloakroom at the luxurious and peaceful Oak Ridge Country Club. Only today, I guess it's the man, swim team coach at his office. We're rolling through the last quarter of these shows. Woo. These were originally recorded live from the ski slopes in Park City, Utah, and I'm the voice of the show. I'm trying to make the show the best that I can for my family and anyone else that might find something useful here. The loss, I guess, of my father and the birth of my child gave me no other option but to complete this project. It's my life's work, and it's absurd at times.
Special videos for people.
Listen to that. Outdated at times, possibly even verbose. Absolute tivitilly. But I have a strengthy message here today. And you should already know that. I've got updates, and then it's off to the races. And we've been preparing this canvas for today's show for some time. So, you know, the music, the concepts, all of this brought us here today to tackle the seemingly insurmountable obstacles that are keeping us from participating in our dreams and dancing in the light. Now, I am not here to push Jesus, but his message was right on point. He tried, but too cryptic. I guess. Who knows? The greats, they toss in their ideas, but sometimes under duress. And again, more data. Edison, he spent his life seemingly searching for a way to be in the light. Because we all get these glimpses. Edison, at a time in Florida, he would sleep for 20 minutes at a time.
You guys gonna play Gibbs' video? That would be awesome.
Who knows what he was growing in his gardens?
On Vimeo, and you'll see it.
Nice little plug for, yeah, go check that out if you haven't already while you're listening to this. He wanted it for himself, and, you know, he wanted to unveil this place right by himself like Disney. And no. Somehow we know Mozart was right on. His music is often as close as other composers too, and it's as close as we'll get to see what heaven is like through our ears. You know, when our brains are lit up across the spectrum.
And the music is rocking hot. What's this?
So the quest continues.
Me?
Also today, I'm referring to some books, and the one often, The Grand Design, by Stephen Hawking and Leonard Mlodinow.
Yeah, right?
While it is a book that is introducing M-theory, it makes the case that M-theory fits an ideal model that he also describes. M-theory is tiny strings vibrating, this is what they say, in 10-dimensional space-time. So I'm lost already. And beyond that, I know absolutely nothing. So I brought the experts along, as M-theory is still sort of the leading, it is the leading model when measured, I suppose, by adoption or popularity, but mostly by the terms Dr. Hawking lays out in layman's terms. And since we're building a model, and I'm responsible as a broadcaster, communicator, I'm not some half-baked ski bum. Where'd you get that idea? Think I'm just out here riffing on some pop culture sciencey stuff?
You'd never know. Today was today.
See, I'm not half-baked.
Completely different day.
I'm fully baked. There's a difference. It's a useful program, or it has been at some point for people.
Who's the nearest bathroom?
Nearest bathroom.
since we're building this model,
Let's think about this.
I want to include the insights that I can find of these great minds and others, and hopefully inspire some thought in your own mind and wonder and digging. But particular to the limits that they set and what is acceptable or even, beyond reproach. Today's quantum uncertainty certainly has its permanent place in science and the bookstore and your latte flavor.
Otherwise, yeah,
Look,
some
it's a
people
quiet
do
place.
wander off into the bushes, and I'll never know.
You'll hear in the episodes. They're just quiet. My memory is fine. It fades over time, so I need to narrate these shows. So, while I still have the memories, I come in and I do these episodes. We were trying to rescue the dog, Trixie, the other day when this whole place came together. And my dog's sister was rescued from the meth ranch, and she's the sweet Sheltie, 6-month-old puppy. I thought she was destined for me. But the circumstances around me were telling me a different story. I visited this dog just before, and I'm here to announce she was adopted. And when I visited, she wanted nothing to do with me. So I knew, well, that was it. At least I thought. Until the breeder reveals her suspicion, her breeder's hunch, that Mama Stella and Papa Forte managed a honeymoon. So announcement 2, now that some time has passed, is that she's had 3 puppies. Just like our dog came from this litter. I have not seen pictures. I will describe them soon. So now everybody wants one. Everybody at the Oak Ridge Country Club swim team coach's office. And so that's why the only reason I'm still lurking around the breeder is, in case someday another dog comes along that'll keep the dog we have company. It'll be one of its brothers and sisters. And he was born on Tuesday. All this business of Tuesday has been great this year. I also want to give you a baby update. She is always as old as the season in weeks. And we celebrate on Tuesdays when we post the show at 10:20 technically. And at week 15, I'm living a new dream. I guess I'd never thought possible. I'm raising my daughter to the best of my ability. I'm conditioned to think it won't last or it will be taken away. But I'm falling, people, deeper in love with this little one every day, and my wife too. It's just that simple, I guess, but so much harder to explain. And we'll put these outfits on her. The shirt that says pretty little lady, all in pink, and pink polka dotted pants. Super cute, just adorable. But still, she can only make this work, let's say now, and when she's in her late 70s. In fact, all of our baby stuff has a natural retired in Florida vibe. Now, Bo, the dog, he's so smart. So he sees it. He spots the strike through. He's looking at me like, hey, you going to get that? And she blew out that whole pink outfit.
Future self.
We had to go with flamingos later.
Doing favors for future self. I'm doing a favor for future self right now by going up high on this hill.
Wonderful, lovely people gave us these outfits. But let's face it, it's sometimes they're prom dresses for infants. And if not for the fits that she has putting all of the fluff on, when she blows out those prom dresses, it is a shitstorm. They have to report on the weather about these things. Sometimes I feel like I'm reporting from the front lines as if it's all happening in front of me. Like I'm a reporter just trying to get this story in. Can I say shit? Yeah, say shit. There's a shitstorm. It's to the best of my ability, and I just bang it out here. And there is a little bit of a haste and fury. It might be dangerous. I hope you listeners will, keep me safe. Hey, that part in there is going to get you arrested or something. You shouldn't mention setting half of Bountiful on fire and expect not to hear from somebody. I just feel like this is the time to strike. I've been compelled. You've been. This is episode 15. I don't need to keep telling you. But what I haven't told you about is that if you are somebody who believes that the solar system, planets, and all that are nothing like the inside of an atom or a molecule, then I suppose you're not alone, actually. But the strange thing is we have a theory of everything that says everything that was once an atom is now expanded for us to consider as a model for the inside of an atom. Point of singularity. And scientists point to light that is emitted when an electron changes shells as the kind of the deal breaker. One of them anyway. In Sam Keene's book, The Disappearing Spoon, Sam takes time to acknowledge the solar system model for atoms and then debunks it just right down party lines. I'm going to read this. Although that is pretty good analogy, it has a flaw if taken literally. Earth, in theory, could have ended up on many different orbits around the sun. Electrons cannot take any old path around the nucleus. So all this part can be is absolutely true. He goes on to explain different eccentric orbits, paths, and distances from their sun. And the real reason it isn't accepted as a model is also, unlike a planet, an electron, if excited by heat or light, can leap from its low energy shell to an empty high energy shell. Now, the electrons cannot stay in the high energy stage for long, as it soon crashes back down. I think that's according to Maxwell's equations. I'm pretty sure of that. And if you remember, there are two sides to every coin. So by agreeing with that, you're agreeing that there aren't two sides to every coin. Okay, also notice one attribute is about position. The other is about changing positions. And all of it is ultimately dependent on time and observers. I also want to say that the Earth's path was absolutely dependent on the energy outside of it, putting it exactly where it wanted it to be. The Earth had no choice in this thing. We talk about random collisions and all that stuff. No. That is still mass singing the praises of its master energy. Yeah, someday we'll be just like you if we just can break ourselves apart from these bigger pieces into smaller. Someday we can be light coming fresh and new, making a leaf grow.
Go all the way around the whole mountain. Look at me. Everybody come all the way out and then all the way back. Come on, Luke. All the way by your sister.
There's the one attribute is about position, the other is about changing positions, and it's all ultimately dependent on time and observers. It's not enough to prove this theory, but I don't know, but it's also used to tear down the best one. I don't know why. It appears that way. I mean, in science class, if you look, there were posters on the wall of the solar system right next to all the other posters of atoms. But we all, I guess, stared at the clock. that's right now, right between them. All those renditions of our natural world. Well, what brings everything down? Time. If these two concepts go head to head over the next, let's say, another 2,000 years, which do you think will win? The one that has endured 2,000 years, that lays out the creation of all things, or the one that serves to sow doubt with variables that aren't working the same at two different scales? We hear it over and over again. We reach this place. The two worlds have to be explained separately. One on the Discovery Channel and the other one on Sci-Fi. Neither of them are right. Again, notice there is no attempt to accommodate for scale, except that it goes without saying, we don't see our planets whizzing around the sun at 1,000 beats per second. Look out there, goddamn things just sitting there, practically sitting there. And they've maintained orbits of clockwork precision long before clockwork precision was possible. But we got ourselves caught in our own trap of a static universe. Damn things are just sitting there. Probability cloud, on the other hand, is really eclipsing any other possibility right now. All possibilities are just part of this cloud, this M cloud of possibilities. Before that came along the Big Bang it's been hard to get around. It's big. And most have yet to find a more simple and compelling theory that's supported by evidence, scientific community, academia, etc. It was the first recorded in 460 BC by Democritus. The guy who gave us our how we get along. I mean, in a nutshell, there was once an atom-sized spot, there was a rapid expansion, and everything is accountable to the Big Bang. Everything around us, planets, gravity, all of it. Can never be destroyed. Anyway, everything, all of it is a direct result of this event and the subsequent expansion. They teach all of this in school. We're just looking at the clock. I'm sure there are details, but isn't this a curious enough alignment of things? Doesn't it just ring true? So it rings true because it's what we've been taught, but it's incongruent with what seems to be happening out there with today's headlines or the things that we're looking for or at, or we can understand based on what we were taught. Why is there gravity? There's all these explanations. Why isn't it because of the inertia and energy from the Big Bang? You're shot out of a cannon. The planets, the sun, the galaxy. Its energy's eternal. When we see energy organizing itself in a self-similar way, to dust, dust to light. And a relative place in all of this somewhere inside of, like, it could be like we could be inside of a firecracker on a planet several degrees of magnitude larger. It's still made of all of our trash.
On the top, we've got full T tech layer, then the turtle.
We'd be pretty deep,
My beloved.
let's say, in the subatomic fabric of things. In this, like 6 drops of Avogadro's number.
Topped off by another black layer to complete the black layer. Then comes all of the employee layers. Oh my gosh. Heavy. Then regular, whatever that one is, sport layer. And then today, because it's blacker,
First.
it looks better.
Why not? As impossible as this sounds, why is this not possible? That mass and energy could be so big. This is all I really want to wonder about. Does size really matter?
Heckler. Oh, it's just some guy in yellow.
We know, like, for example, if this whole thing were made of like tape and cardboard, my favorite construction materials, this world would not be possible, not for long. Chris Williams, he loved Adam Ant.
Very active in church in those years because of his life changes.
I had to give him a Spider-Man I found, and that's the moral of this story. He made some deal. He's like, hey, if
I
you...
would see him on Sundays because I went to the St. Mark's Episcopal Chapel down there in downtown Salt Lake City. We would harass the parishioners, ask them for their tickets to get into the events, etc., etc. Tickets, please, tickets. The time that marked the move, I think, from, our bountiful world to Live Oak, where I start to have memories, has to do with him and I dissecting a mouse in my bedroom with my microscope, gear. I was given this stuff, so it's all legal. We dissected a mouse, looked at it under the microscope, I'm sure, and from then on called each other Dr. Williams, Dr. Barry, and that would have been 4th grade. 4th, 5th, 6th. Yeah, that makes sense. But he went through a phase where he was religious and was praising the Lord that he has another shot at life. But then the drift happened. And first thing, I liked the band Kiss. In fact, our next run, let's do some Kiss. And he was more on the north side of town. He started liking the Village People, Adam Ant. Oh, I remember one other thing. Our families would go on family trips together. And we went to Sun Valley, and I remember Sun Valley, and we wanted to have the model of the gondola. He got it, I didn't. And it was like this neat thing. We went to San Diego, and I found a rubber Spider-Man doll. And it was neat, it was realistic, and it was really cool. I found it in the sand. And he came up with some rule that whatever I find, he keeps, whatever, right? So he had to keep the Spidey doll until one day, I think he found $20. And I called him on the rule. Well, guess what? Times have changed. And at that point, he had molded into his started to become the rebel punk rocker. The mohawk, that he would use egg whites to make. And eventually, I guess, super glue, and then he went, completely pro. But when he was in sort of the early days, it was done with egg whites. So flies would fly around his head. And he had this mohawk. And we were on the swim team, so, that was hard to keep around. Alright, we're coming up on the top of payday. We're gonna ski over to Bonanza, down over to Mid-Mountain for lunch. Have we eaten anything today?
So, we very well could be lodged inside of a firecracker or a diamond on the finger of a bride in a world just like ours. Why not? It too has diamonds, and like us, they can't see deep enough. They just see the big gas giants. Because they're not seeing, they're seeing two different sizes of electrons. Or multiple different sizes. One that we're not even sure we're going to call that an electron anymore. Pluto. What are you? Neutrino? It's gone around like what? 4 times? Pluto's orbit, actually 248 years. It doesn't even care about you. So we have organic molecules here on Earth, and this model says we're a building block of a world that surrounds us. Also organic. Similar. Does it keep going? It could. And people will rejoice at a new thought experiment that keeps us from falling into the infinite paradox about what would be on the other side of our universe. We're going to get on the lift. I don't know how much of this you want to hear. We'll find out. And then we'll fade down on our nice folks. They can have their vacation. All right? Talking about deep stuff they covered in Men in Black. Hung around the cat's neck. Or Ryan.
Yeah.
Coming down, Andrew?
Bar coming down. And I'm with the resort. If anyone has any questions.
Find some of our missing group.
Uh-oh.
Unified
That's good.
theories
Maybe they wanted to disappear.
theoretically end up saying things are one and the same.
Cramping your style.
What we call gravity is also the subatomic forces, etc. We want to better understand that. And as we do, it all blends.
Give me what's the yurt? What's
And-
it like?
What I believe what we call gravity is actually,
I guess.
or in fact, the inertia from the Big Bang. I can't fly off in a spaceship out of that, or out of that diamond ring, without overcoming the energy, the inertia from the Big Bang.
I just don't go there. I try to the first time when we
I need all of the energy from the Big Bang, plus a bit more to account for what I've used up to make that journey work. So the model becomes what goes up, what comes down. We can't resolve it because of the subatomic size. We can see in the macro world the planets, the galaxies, etc. And those are the color forces holding them together. The strong nuclear force at work. We call it gravity. I call it inertia, because that's what they told us that's how it is. Before Stephen Hawking died, he wrote that philosophy is dead. And for that same reason, I believe it has to be alive. Things have become too complex for a reasonable discussion. When only an LHC run is going to render some decent rebuttals to some wild ideas coming from labs that need grant money. With this existing model, nothing is lost. No rules are broken here. Gravitrons are still a stretch, but nothing changes here. It makes this a practical way to think over any other model. We know Mr. Hawking leaves Jesus out, and for obvious reasons. He goes into some detail about how churches have historically set us back and why they're not invited to the discussion. You can see why when Jesus says, "I'm the light," physicists aren't surrounding him with instruments trying to measure him, the source of his luminance. He's been on display for 2,000 years. And that whole thing about him being the light, untestable marketing.
Mountain Safety has some more leeway than the host did, so I said I'm doing that, and I did it last year.
The leap of faith comes when you need to get practical to explain it. I have to be direct and say, for example, when you look at, subatomic, generally things are whizzing around the nucleus, and that makes things unable to locate, and thus our conundrum. Yet our sun, whatever it is, makes its orbit around the nucleus every 250 million years. It's called a galactic year. And from that point of reference, we're whizzing around at 500,000 miles per hour. Light speed still 670 million. And what does it say about temperature, for that matter? All these other things that scale up. We don't let light scale up, and that does prevent things. And in this case, in that encompassing world, they're all would be theoretically then just hearing the sound of the Big Bang, this firecracker. Entire 13.8 billion years is just the tiniest fraction of time. Eternity, when it starts fitting into everything, 13.8 billion into just seconds, if even that. I'm not a math person. I would have been, but it's making me crazy. If I dump water in space, we talked about, it makes this natural ball. You scale that up, you get planets. Where do we scale up from there? I get that there's no definitive answer, because there's no definitive proof. No one's going to take a stab here. Or everyone's going to take a stab because there's no risk. He's like Joe Smith. There's no way someone's going to prove you wrong one way or the other, so hey. But there was a time that every 100 years we could expect our Einsteins and Newtons to rise up and sum things up and put it in a box. And they've been preserved at times and edited to keep the church in check. And each time we get a box, humanity gets smaller, less relative. And our God gets bigger. We can't keep him in a box, and if we can't keep him in a box anymore, we can no longer have control.
I can tell if you were Yeah, I had it on record though, so I got it on video.
All right. That's what I was expecting. So, I'll just split those royalties with you when it goes viral. First, everything revolved around us in Copernican times. The Earth was at the center, static. One box and one head later, we get this box with the sun at the center. Or heliocentric. Heliocentric. It's a nice word, nice to say. I'd name a later child this. 5th or 6th child. Helio, or a cat. My next cat is going to be Leopold or Mozart. It just hasn't wandered into the yard yet. So yes, heliocentric still gives us some control over God. Alright. I am. Is that your name?
I am.
Okay. We got you surrounded with gassy planets, Mr. I Am. So, why don't you put your spiral arms up so we can see what you're doing. Now come out. Are you coming out?
I am.
Now look, we got priors on you. We know who you are, Jehovah, Jesus, Jeshua, Jesus H, Jerry, Jesus, Mother, Mary of Christ. We have them all. And you stole some wine recently, didn't you? From the high priest. That would be funny. To serve it at their wedding. Call it a miracle. When they could taste the vintage. The vintner, he was the best man's cousin and familiar with the bass notes of Father Cannabidab's foot fungus that he lends while crushing the grapes with his feet. All quite undeniable. Jesus. We have him this time. Charlatan. Jesus. I mean, really, stealing from the charity Sister Magleby has been tirelessly promoting the From Fish to Riches program. Every day, Jesus and the gang down there cleaning out the pond of money and fish. Oblivious that it's money thrown in there from people trying to support Mother, Sister, bless her heart, Mother Magleby? Yeah. They stole her raft, they stole this raft that she had. She'd go out, get lobster with it. It was her flat raft. People said it made her look like she was walking on water. Next thing you know, it's gone. But it'd take a miracle to bring it back. If only we had somebody who could do that.
Please, call me Helio. Helio the Centric.
So, Sun at the center became the new box and has been re-gifted ever since. The next box, I think, you tell me, the next box will have to do something, either in or out of our current box, sure. But, we might discover a subatomic box or the superstructure that we see around us. Or one new box that those two sides are somehow connected in a continuous spectrum. But it's gonna be outside of us. That will have our insights. That will help us to make the kind of progress that we need to learn more, predict more. We'll predict as we have better understandings. And we'll get and bring home useful things that we can use in our lives, that we can use right now. There's this home being renovated for, I guess, a flip next to the dog park. And in front of it is this grand old silverleaf maple tree, the kind that drops those golf ball sized fruit of the gods for a teenage boy, if you ever were one. Or I don't think the girls were terrorized by them because we called them itching powder balls, I guess. And it's clear by the surroundings that the yard is completely dried up. Compared to the other trees with green lawns around them, it looks very much more stressed. So I'm compelled to talk to the neighbors And they told me most of what I told you. And they have no concern for the tree. We see on the news all the time how year after year we get this microburst wind. We had a tornado this time of year that it tore the trees out. It picks them up and lays them on people's houses. Not lays it. Some get lucky, but still no concern. We drive the same car. No, we're late for a movie. All right, fine. What bothers me is that the perception of the cosmos and how it's been taught and has been static ever since the 1920s is now in this box with zero values unless you're relative to something, and this is the most energy you can get out of any quantity of mass. So sure, Hubble, he came along and he said otherwise, but at least about the static part anyway. And we've, I guess, just been at rest for so long, it's hard to get going again. It's going to take some energy to get this thing going about energy, I guess. That's a weird thought. What is really the difference if the Big Bang Theory has been abandoned? It has stopped producing meaningful predictions for most of us.
9990 received last year.
When it actually, from the outside in, it's the ultimate predictor right down to my mass. It would be an abomination for me to be, from my energy to disappear, be destroyed. Somehow. We can't do it. We don't know how. I can't explain it. Or and more to be added to me from some other place. And sometimes it feels so Truman Show about this one. I'll talk to people, and it's like they said, okay, now everybody in the world, there's just one thing. This guy Gibb comes along asking questions about the striking similarity happening in a generally self-similar world. Just act like he's confusing you, discredit him, that kind of thing. Until 2060, and then, whatever. Really, Newton really thought this God thing had some juice, could go the distance, but the Mormons threw the whole deal. How could he account for a 14-year-old boy knowing a con when they see a con, and he wants to play along? So, along with elegance and lack of variables, Dr. Hawking lists out the rules for models and what is acceptable and, beyond reproach in some cases. Jesus is not invited to the party. And as I said, there is a long explanation why. We all know that, just going into it. And it's because, fuck them, is why. I'd add a model needs to be useful, but for my model to be useful, we still need to bushwhack our way through some of these things to show how it doesn't throw any babies out with the bathwater. It rests on their shoulders. For Mr. Hawking, it was the smartest guy trying to impress all these dumb people. And I'm like the dumb one of the dumb ones. I think I'm the dumb one. I have my ACT scores right here. Trying to impress the smarty-panty people. If it is elegant, he goes on to say, if it's elegant, lacking in variables, fudge factories, I like to call them. If a model doesn't throw all of the accepted models under the bus, it has some value. If it does not take a different view, then it has to show where and why so there can be duplication. We're back to making pie so everyone can eat it. It's got to be a model that will be universal and yield the same results in all these different laboratories. And, let me be clear here to save time. You and I are going on a massless journey. The laboratory will be our brain on your timing. It'll be safe and free. And it's free from all of your religious, spiritual doubts and hang-ups. And that's what all of E1 through 14 are for. Watch those episodes. We are going to the ultimate place. And from all of this, you can have the ultimate answers. But you have to fully embrace the message of Jesus, but completely deny his power over you at this time, or it will just not work. This model is immediately testable, and you'll get your immediate results. Unfortunately, we've stopped to rest here on sort of the precipice of a chasm that separates us from this lofty peak I'm describing ahead. We still have bushwhacking to do. It should be evident. I need to show you. You should be like, what? I need to show you where all this divergence is because the other thing we don't need for a journey is gravity. And so let's start now and let's throw it under the ship. If you and I are in free fall, we have parachutes. That doesn't matter. We're in free fall. I just don't want you to be scared. Toward Earth. You can close your eyes now. Gravity says that we're also attracted to each other as we fall, and we'll drift toward each other. What this model says is yes. But according to the literal translation of the Big Bang, which is that we are shot out of a cannon and have a natural drift, expansion, grouping, and rotation going, as we fall back to Earth, we're drawn back to the Earth's center of gravity, our center of origin, to which we still owe a debt. But the Earth grew, I guess, under our feet, so we've got some digging to do to float away. That's how much energy it'll take. The energy it would take for you to dig to the center of the Earth. You need that much energy to float away. Look, imagine like a baseball pitcher has thrown a baseball, and way down deep inside the ball is us on a planet Earth, a tiny, not even an electron, it's so small. Deep in the cork. Anyone there wants to say there are gravitons in there? Fine. But there ain't no getting out of that ball without an extreme amount of digging and energy that isn't nearly available on the planet Cork. You just have to dig yourself out and repeat. So, slight detour number one has to do with this entity, gravity, and three other mysterious forces that matter. All the same? We have observable examples, purely inertia, and until something comes along and knocks it out of whack, it goes. I don't know, imagine other examples. If you're on a boat, that force propelling you away from another fixed point of singularity is sort of stretching this rubber band you have back to the point. Your house, you gotta get back to the store, you gotta get some milk for the kids. When the boat runs out of gas, it lets go of its energy, and that fixed point is going to be back to collect. And I'm mixing a metaphor here, and left us in free fall, but we're paying back that debt to the inertia of the center of the Earth. And since we're both heading the same place and owe the same debt, we will drift together on the reverse course. Not that we find ourselves free falling again together or drifting together like, sexual attraction or spooky action or distance. I'm not saying that. I'm saying debris. We're debris, shrapnel floating around, and we've got other stuff in concert with us. Contemporaries, Jupiter, Saturn, neatly packed into balls as only our universe can do because there's so much inertia pushing us into this place that we can't leave. Still, we're looking at it from the outside in. And from that frame of reference, you have to see how gravity is a construct of just our minds to better understand frisbees and broken eggs. That gravity is part of we are inside of this baseball. And you got no chances of explaining your way out of gravity. It's a real deal. So with gravity down for a minute, we still have to contend with time and our own flesh. And then we go. Okay, no Kool-Aid, nothing weird. You become an autonomous traveler of light. And we work with each other, sharpen our skills to see clearer, and create a way, a path to better see the light. The mistake everyone made on this is that they wanted it for themselves. But it's a group effort. And one of the reasons is that love and harmony is the warp drive of this vehicle. I know this is all hastily rolling out. And that last mile can only be explained as bushwhacking. There are so many obstacles that have kept modern mankind from hearing the narratives of nature. And the perils of this model are real too. At this point, all I can report from the front lines of life in 2018 is it becomes difficult to see people off to soccer practices have no concern for the eternal or the depth and grandeur of our infinite time here. But was there once? I was there once. Nothing wrong with someone in life, in a different place in life. By the time of the 1920s, they had a static universe model. Guys, what about this Democritus guy from the early BCs? Here's your way of governance, he hands it over, and if you guys start pondering your belly button between wars, here's an elegant theory of everything. Go. By 1920, we have zero values to work with. Newtonian physics doesn't work without values. Jesus and God are out. Einstein gave us his box with his photoelectric effect and the bending of light. You can demonstrate relatively by doing anything anywhere, and that's it. His tail wagging the dog theory of gravity by spilling liquid into a ball into space. You can demonstrate that's what it looks like. He says the ball does this to space, but I'm saying space does this to the ball. But the effect is the same. His insights on time allow us to keep clocks accurate, allow things like GPS to be accurate. And as he's leaving the scene, and all this is going on, he calls it spooky action at a distance. And he starts taking God's side, since it was God he set out to figure out in the first place. And he says things like, well, I don't think God don't play dice.
All units, please stand by for missing person support in the payday base area.
Perfect time for a missing persons report. That's when it all sort of split away.
We're looking for missing persons Holland. Holland is a 9-year-old male, no borders. Holland is wearing black pants, blue jacket, and a red helmet. Holland was last seen right outside the National Ability Center about 1:50. Holland is a sensitive student from the National Ability Center. If you see Holland, please call dispatch.
I also just wanted to demonstrate how much we just don't care about old history. Years pass, and here we are with this theory so elegant that now it's available to only the elite. Its variables are infinite until you look at it, I guess. And if others are looking at you, observing you, I don't know, it's hard to keep track. All the models, including the standard model, are at some point out. And here's some of the latest useful discoveries. Quotes: a particle has neither a definite position nor a definite velocity unless and until these quantities are measured by an observer. This is again from that book from Stephen Hawking's wonderful book, by the way, The Grand Design. It's a little older now, and to me the book stands to be seminal as it lays out what becomes M theory and now is the popular theory. So it reads like a pitch to the general public for M theory, and that's fine. I got no problems. But I do have problems, and I do need solutions. And honestly, I've got more problems just trying to keep all that stuff straight. So I had to build my own model and call things what I call them and stick to the same rules he tacks up for his model and any others who come along to keep me in check, right? The attributes that he lists are elegance and defined as, few or arbitrary adjustable elements. The model should agree with and explain all existing observations. Yes, all of them. Can't say everything. So you got to explain autism. And finally, make detailed predictions about future observations. That can prove or disprove, that shows that it's useful, like the photoelectric effect or the light bending. What showed everybody that, that was his P.T. Barnum moment for Einstein to show everybody he knew what he's talking about. So I feel like I need to check these boxes before we can have our final talk about the predictions and the practical applications of this model.
All right, this will be part 3, and we're beginning from Mid-Mountain Lodge. Just finishing up. It's 2:30.
First, the elegance and the grandeur of the Big Bang has not been overcome, in my mind. It has been scrutinized for all these 2,300 years, and it's summed up in sentences that could be understood by a 5-year-old. And second, let's kill some of these modern variables and these fudge factories and give time a bigger role. And for the most part, just one fudge factor to convert everything to energy. And third rule, we need to accept and embrace all of these existing models that got us this far. And we will, even Jesus and the scrutiny that has followed his truth, the light, and the way speech, it will let him in. My personal credibility is thankfully not on trial here. I'm reporting this like it's a fire. And some folks are bound to draw no conclusions until they're conclusive. But even time has made us all not Mormons, huh? In my lifetime, we're all not Mormons. But now, through observation that most anyone can do, there are modern ways that we can take this data, these pictures, all this, and use it to advance our intellectual connection to energy, where we came from, what we ultimately are, and the eternal. So philosophy, my friends, is alive and well. It's the only warrior we have left to solve the mysteries of these crazy dreams. We won't have much more conclusive proof about this anytime soon unless we are looking deeper, like the Hubble Deep Field. The Hubble Deep Field that revealed there's everything in a place where we once thought there was nothing. And modern physics has not been accessible to the common person. It is uncertain. I respect it won't call things until it sees them. And now, with this disclaimer about observers and particles and superpositions and quantum entanglement, my God, everything is quantum this or that. It's like October, and everything has to be pumpkin spiced. Everywhere until January now. Pumpkin spiced, super unleaded gasoline. Get your car, will love it. I'm done with quantum. Sounds like a plea for a millennial grant money. If you can somehow get cryptocurrency in there. I want to know, if you'll excuse me, why the fuck my brain uses light to think. There doesn't seem to be any uncertainty about that. Nature seems to know where things are and exactly how fast they're going to make a human, but is not an observer. So no, I'm not saying it's wrong. We'll talk. We have talked already about smelling those other superpositions, and there's other stuff, superpositions of narratives that surround us to stay on the path of truth. That is the way. That tree that talked to me, it said it is thirsty, but solely by the circumstances and the narratives of truth that surrounded it. It still does, surrounds it. That tree may think it's fine, along with the neighbors, but probability says differently. So it's bushwhacking. I have to call it because right now, all of those details are not important, but they do keep us from making headway. And where we have to go, before we can unfold the rest of this message. Because right now, all of those details are not important. I talked to someone just today who lost his father. And I didn't want my haste to deliver the message to make anything, cause any complications. I'm back to making pie. So we're stalled. With all due respect to the amazing amount of advances in everything else, the mechanics of the cosmos, gravity, light, the smartest guys are arguing about hundreds of completely different models. And now all these bright minds are coming over to my industry, making us all look like idiots. So, boo. But that stuff in the recovery episode, you need the message of that episode to be master of your flesh. Don't think that because you're not an alcoholic or something, tough shit. You need those steps. We're in a crisis here. If something has been keeping us from the final frontier, it is a crisis of the greatest magnitude. And in my lifetime, something has been keeping me from free energy, all of us, and knowing the truth about energy. So it's not a stretch here. Are you really going to settle for zero values? Infinite values? Expansion, no expansion? Static? Guys, there was obviously expansion when the universe made room for Jupiter and Uranus. After we settle this fudge factor thing, the shackles of these beliefs need to be at your back. And you can say what you want about them in chat rooms over the weekend, but please check them at the door for this model to work. You need to know in your own fabric why you are free from the concept of gravity and probability, or at least allow yourself to experience them from the outside looking in. And if you haven't watched all of these shows in order, I'm here to say that may be a problem and your results may vary. Settling will occur. It sounds like rambling, but you have to have a 2112 moment. And if you don't know what that is, the whole posture of just skimming this is no worky. We need to have a complete control over your flesh, your mind. And if you can't skip a meal, a breath, a toke, a line, another lick off of that cane toad, we can have no encumbrances and clutter. If Jesus won't let you go to heaven before it's time, then nope. Problems. But Jesus has been trying to get this simple, elegant, all-inclusive message through for some time. That heaven is right here on earth. It's within the prayer he taught us. It is within each and every one of us. We visit every night when we dream. That experience is not hidden or encoded or anything. Just not recording. Not perfected. For the sake of the show, I should say we're not hot rolling when we go in. Everybody just kind of falls asleep. I see it's getting dark and blah, blah. They keep trying. And it's just simply been blocked by our understanding of that experience. So the next episode is going to have to be dedicated to the fudge factor. Or sexuality, or both. Hot Roll is a fictitious program and does not necessarily reflect the views of the blah 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 blah. And for those of you who wish to stay until the end of all these things, I want to say thanks. And my thanks goes to you today. And always, if I can tuck a little nugget here at the very end, I always will, just for you. And you know why? Because for as fictitious as this is, shit is getting real. And I always toss nuggets to the ducks I like. I think people, who stay for the credits at the end are, like in movies, are people who are tuned into gratitude. Notice how greedy networks disrespect the movie credits and gratitude. Narratives all around us. Like right here at the Oak Ridge Country Club. Total bullshit. I'm telling you, that's the nugget. All this Oak Ridge Country Club, total bullshit. Until next time, be safe out there.
The spot. Buddy's in the spot.